2003 murder of 23-year-old Catherine Bohr. Jean-Jacques Mézières, convicted of manslaughter and fraud in the death of Scientologist Patrice Vic in France in 1998. Gary Don Beals, a diagnosed schizophrenic, was convinced by the Church of Scientology to forego his medication. He killed his father and stabbed his mother. He was convicted of manslaughter. Beals was found dead in 2007. Another victim of Scientology. We talk at the end of this about Ellie Perkins and Jeremy. Pardon me?
They're closing more of them.
Oh, okay.
Close the entire left side.
Yeah. And the right side too. With tribulation.
Really be getting to them.
Yeah.
Well, let us continue. Maybe they'll close it all down.
Yeah.
Okay, Reed Slatkin pled guilty to fraud in a massive Ponzi scheme in 2003 and was sentenced to 14 years in prison. Okay, but that's fraud is a big one. Scientologists has recruited a lot of dentists. They seem to really focus on dentists, and all the money that they suck out of these dentists and their firms, they end up doing things that are blatantly illegal in order to support their efforts. Okay, Jean Shumway, convicted in 1991 Seattle of first-degree murder and the poisoning and smothering of her mother. Supporters. Alexis Shumway, convicted in 1991 Seattle of first-degree murder and the poisoning and smothering of her grandmother. Ben Castle, convicted on June 4th, 2009 on Count A, a Tier 1 sex offense requiring sex registry in Ohio. After pleading nolo contendere, neither admission nor denial, to raping a child of 13 to 14 years old inside the Cincinnati Church of Scientology. Nice. Can't even protect their own kids. Rick Pendery, co-owner of the Second Chance program, was convicted of fraud in San Diego in 1994. Let's see, he also lost the civil suit fraud. Nana Anderson pled guilty in December 1995 in Canada to stealing documents from the Ontario Medical Association at the behest of the Church of Scientology between November 1976 and March 1983. The neighbors to the north having some fun with the Scientologists. Janice Wheeler, convicted in Toronto, Canada in 1992 of breach of public trust in the Church of Scientology, infiltration of Canadian government offices, and theft of confidential documents. That's a big one again up in Toronto. Here's another one, Donald Whitmore.
Got
fun stuff going on behind me?
Communications with that guy and giving us thumbs up there.
Yeah, the guy's looking over like, what were we doing? I'm like...
Well, I mean, a lot of people support us. It's great. Donald Whitmore, convicted in Toronto, Canada in 1992, breach of public trust in the Church of Scientology, infiltration of Canadian government offices, and theft of confidential documents. Oh, trend going here. Detlef Fulwa, convicted in Germany of tax evasion and subsidy fraud in 1993, along with Karl Erich Heilig, who was also convicted of tax evasion and subsidies fraud in 1993 in Germany. Markle D. Bullis, convicted in 2006 in Columbus, Ohio of healthcare fraud. Jailed in 2006 on drug charges. Given the Scientology stance on drugs, it's interesting. Linda Walicki, a 25-year-old woman suffering from schizophrenia and a member of a Scientologist family. In April 2008 in Sydney, Australia, she allegedly suffered a psychotic break after being taken off her medication by Scientologists. She stabbed her father Michael and her 15-year-old sister Catherine to death, seriously injuring her mother. She was committed to the Bunya unit of Cumberland Hospital after pleading not guilty due to mental disease or defect. She and her family were named in the print version of the Sydney Morning Herald, not the online version. Again, another schizophrenic. They have this irrational fear of psychiatry, and they don't let people get help that they need, and people end up dead. I mean, and there must be dozens of people that end up dead. Ronald Bernstein, convicted in 1991 in Clearwater of federal money laundering charges. Grant Bushoff, convicted in 91 in Clearwater of federal money laundering charges. Lawrence Spencer, also convicted in 1991 in Clearwater of federal money laundering charges. We see these groups of people together. They do it as, you know, part of organized Scientology. Ludmila Vasilieva, Denmark Scientologist, who was a nanny for another Scientologist family, killed and mutilated her twin children, Lauren and Hervé. That's all I have on that. Harry Larius, Dutch former executive director of the French branch of the organization, Scientology, was condemned to 3 years and a fine of 15,000 francs and a conviction of fraud in France, along with L. Ron Hubbard in 1978. And L. Ron is the guy who fled the country. Jacqueline Valentin, French former head of the Church of France, Scientology, was sentenced to 2 years in prison and a fine of 10,000 francs. She was convicted of fraud in France, along with L. Ron Hubbard. George Andrew, also convicted of fraud in France in 1978 and given a suspended 1-year prison sentence and a fine of 3,000 francs. Let's see, Erwin Richard Anau, convicted of fraud in Florida in 1998 as part of the TradeNet laundry ball scam. I have no idea what that is. Bill L.W. Cooper, convicted of fraud in Florida in 1998 as part of the TradeNet laundry ball scam. Robert Float, convicted of fraud, fined 3 separate times. His company Red Giant is now outlawed in Illinois. Interesting. Elizabeth Eagleton Wygant, convicted of blackmail of Senator Thomas Eagleton, Democrat of Missouri, in 1980. Must be an ex-spouse. Just against. The list goes on and on. But we got time, so maybe they can see where they're Okay, Herb Zerden, convicted of operating an unlawful foreclosure rescue scam in Texas from Clearwater, Florida in 2007, forced to repay homeowners in Texas. David Gorway, arrested on April 2nd, 2008, after buying drugs from an undercover cop, and charged with cocaine trafficking, money laundering, resisting arrest with violence, and driving with a suspended license. Settled on the fraud case. Franz Riedel, Germany, 1994, convicted of libel. Jeremy Perkins, right from right here in Buffalo. Yeah, committed to a mental hospital in 2004 in Buffalo, New York, after stabbing his mother 77 times, stabbing her to death, by the way. His mother being Ellie Perkins. He was also an undiagnosed schizophrenic, and they took him to Scientologist doctors, quote unquote. I'd call them quacks, and never got the treatment that he needed until it was too late. Deborah Ann Dalton, convicted of fraud in 2002 in Sydney, Australia, for pretending she had a baby to collect child care money. There you go. Nice. Georgia Carta, convicted of extortion in 2004 in Sardinia, connected to the 1997 suicide of Roberto De Plano, sentenced to 4.5 years in prison. Richard E. Britton Jr., convicted of fraud in Knoxville, Tennessee in 1999. Xavier Delamar, head of the Church of Scientology in France, convicted of fraud in 1999 and sentenced to 2 years in jail. Kent Stryker, convicted October 2005 in LA of federal fraud and charities fraud charges. Jacqueline Matz, convicted of 2 counts of breach of trust contrary, I guess, in 1992 in Canada. Olga Ukova, convicted of money laundering and setting up an illegal business in Russia in 2001. Suzanne Montegaro was sentenced in Switzerland with a suspended 15 days arrest, 2,000 Swiss franc torts, and all